Okay, so the religious playlist, it's all kind of done. So I'm going to get back to talking about things that I actually want to talk about. And it's quite difficult to do YouTube about the news, because the news has basically stopped and is basically going around in a circle, which is not news, which is driving journalists mad, and kind of reflects the nonsense on Twitter, and we kind of ignore that here. So there's somebody who I wanted to talk about, and I want to talk about Meghan Markle. That's not her name, is it? It's the Duchess of Sussex. I know that that's not, I don't know whether that's her title anymore or not. And I wanted to talk about the impact of Twitter and the print media, who no longer have an environment they can reproduce their models, on destabilising the country. And I wanted to discuss Meghan Markle. Now, one of the things that I've recorded in the last 10 years is how that reflex to project identity and strip back at the systems that I talk about safeguarding the rule of law, which resulted in the war on women of the last 10 years, that's led to the country being balkanised. It's led to Brexit. It's led to a very serious situation that this country is in. And I've always talked about our stabilising core in this country is actually our monarchy. So in this country, we like things to look one way, but they're really not. Like, our monarchy for a very long time has been a guarantee of equality and democracy. And it's been a ceremonial function because it's very, very stable, because a monarchy is family reproducing, and this is the most stably reproducing model there is. And our monarchy, our royal family, they sit with the crown, and the crown keeps all our institutions separate. And if you think that entangling ourselves from the EU is complicated, you look at what would happen if we had to replace the crown. So this is the institution that keeps our justice system separate from our politics system, and it maintains division in these institutions, but it requires a family to live in this institution and to reproduce. Now, up until the last quarter of the 20th century, this was a sure thing, but the 20th century saw this dramatic reorganisation in human organisation, where women turned family from a unit of ownership, the basis of our economy and society, into one of reciprocity and affection. And now we have all these new systems. We have a care economy, we have new rule of law, we have safeguarding, we have equality legislation. We have intersectionality as a theory which discusses how these systems come together around the poorest people. This is nothing to do with twit media feminism. This is a very serious concept about the way that the rule of law protects the most vulnerable. And in England, intersectionality has been embedded in our rule of law since 1989 around looked after children. Fun fact for you. Now, our royal family, we tend to have in this country dud kings and then exceptional queens, and the Queen has been on the throne for a very, very long time. Like the 20th century is defined by Queen Elizabeth II, and we should now be looking at the reproduction of our monarchy and whether it's still stable, and it isn't. And one of the reasons that our monarchy is no longer stable is not the people in it and not the British public, who actually have a fairly strong kind of connection to the monarchy and understand this kind of complex relationship that's contained within this institution, but it's our media. Now, my view on the monarchy changed dramatically when I watched an 11-year-old boy forced to walk behind his mother's funeral car for my entertainment, because our press had hounded his mother until she died. Now, I have no views on Princess Diana. I have no views. I don't consume the monarch soap opera, not very often, or I try not to, because once I had seen an 11-year-old boy forced to walk behind his mother's funeral car in a way that we would never ask a looked after child to do, the way the most vulnerable children in the country would be protected from, nobody would ask them to do that. That would be abuse. I realised that there was a problem here, and that the way that we consume our monarchy has to change. Now, in the aftermath of the death of Princess Diana, again, a very mawkish outpouring, if I'm honest, which I avoided. I didn't sign a condolence book. I hid from it. I tried to listen to things that were not that and do that. I'm very, very sorry. I'm not into the pageantry of it. But it always stuck with me when I watched that little boy walking behind, and that was Prince Harry. And then when he started to party hard, I kind of was like, all right then, if they'd done that to me, I would have snorted the family silver and partied hard my whole life, and I'd have do you know what I mean? I'd have done worse than wearing a Hitler uniform. And then all of a sudden, quite remarkably, this young man emerges out of this horrendous thing that we as a country have done to him. And he wants to step up. And like, his causes are probably not mine. I think he's quite interested in military stuff. I don't really know, I'm not. And at present, we have to transmit signals to the world about our stability and our modernity. And actually, this young man he married an American actress who's very, very beautiful, called Meghan Markle. And I actually saw the wedding, and I thought the wedding was very, very beautiful. But again, I didn't follow much else. And because I don't watch the news, what I didn't notice was what was happening to this woman. So everybody, as far as I was concerned, and everybody I knew, pretty much despises. And not because I only know people with the same views as me. Pretty much across the board, we don't read the political press. The only people that read the political press are in Westminster, and they haven't noticed that nobody else is doing so. It's a wall of hate. You kind of steer your children past it in the newsagents. It's so hateful and racist and disgusting, and it hates women. And it's just this wall of hate. And it did not occur to me that this young man, whose childhood we had consumed, who essentially had very good reason to feel that this relationship with the press had killed his mother, who I was very surprised to see stepping up and standing up to the plate and saying, no, I want to do my duty. I was very surprised when he got married to find that this woman was on the outpouring of a campaign of hate, because all I had heard anywhere from people who don't like the monarchy, do like the monarchy, was, nothing. Like, not much. A bit of enthusiasm. I think the school wanted us to make something red, white and blue the way they generally do, and there were flags and street parties, which I tend to avoid because I'm a miserable old sod. And then I started to notice on YouTube the outpouring of hate for this woman. And I kind of ignored it. I wasn't using Twitter very much at all. So and when I was just getting shit, so I didn't notice it. And then they had a baby. And that was it. That was absolutely it. And all of a sudden, this wall of hate, who've just destabilised the country, who've just led to us balkanising ourselves, who are at the root of why we've got system failure across major offices of state, who are the reason that this country is currently being enveloped and investors are moving their money out of London. These people who want to represent our country as a racist, misogynist, antiquated shithole decided to launch a hate campaign against this woman. And what you saw on Twitter when you did check was the same trolls who are willing to spit venom and hate for anything were pouring it at this woman. And this young woman who'd had a baby and fallen in love with this man whose mother had already been killed by this was then the centre of just the most appalling thing I've ever seen. And I was like, I was horrified. Why would we be doing this to this family? And now this woman and this young man, I think they live in America. I think they've said they don't want to be here, because why would you? Why would you want to be doing your duty when that was the cost to your mother, to your daughter, to your son, to your wife? And I quite like this Meghan Markle, because she didn't pretend it was fine. She said, this is not fine. I'm a new mother. I've done nothing here. And she had the audacity to say, we don't want to do that anymore. We don't want to raise our child in that. I don't want to be hounded to death. He didn't want to see his wife go the way we had pushed his mother. And so I was thinking about Meghan Markle this afternoon, because I spotted on, I had an MSN thing that came up, and it said that the Duchess of Cambridge was in her shadow, and I clicked on this link, and there were about 30 made-up headlines about how the Queen was upset because Meghan Markle had done this, and the Queen was upset because Meghan Markle had done this. And what was actually happening in these articles was that these editors were deliberately destabilising our country, destabilising the monarchy, at a point in time when they have already destabilised a country, at a point in time when they have already locked us out of the economic future of the world. And after driving this young couple out of being able to do their duty and raising questions over whether the monarchy can reproduce and maintain UK stability at all, They wanted you to believe that it was the Queen that had done this. And I looked at these papers and I thought, who reads them? Do I know anybody who reads the political press? Nope. Do I know anybody who thinks this? No. And I looked at this young couple, I thought, well, how are they going to know that the country does not think this? Because this culture who are on Twitter and who are around Westminster with these papers no one reads, where they've been trying to breed fascism since the bloody 30s in the case of the Daily Mail, they have just done this. And this culture rooted on the This Week sofa and on Question Time and in BBC studios where people won't even pay their TV licence anymore because the news is so bad and because the culture there are so insulated from reality. These videos are getting more depressing. And I find myself here doing a video about a Duchess who I'll never meet. And in actual fact, we're at a point where safeguarding systems have consolidated. Underneath all of this mess and all of this noise, the process that I was watching was these safeguarding systems consolidate. And what should happen in the next 4 to 5 years is our children's legislation should update, partially as a response to the child abuse inquiry, partially as a response to consequences of austerity in the family court stuff. But what should happen in that is there should be a streamlining so that royal children are protected in the same way as other children, and so that we don't have 11-year-olds walking behind their mother's funeral car for the public consumption. But we're living in this nightmare world at the minute where this pragmatic, stable country where these things are happening, where these democratic mechanisms are kicking in, are actually working, but the noise is being made by media and the noise is being made by Twitter, and it's a tiny culture around London like this big. And they pick up random fucking mentalists on Twitter, like they like to recruit mentally ill people on Twitter to keep their hands clean and cause hate and harm and damage to people to protect themselves from what they don't know. And in order that this country protect themselves from what they don't know, they've just waged war. We've got about 100,000 dead benefit claimants. We've mishandled coronavirus. We've balkanized ourselves. We've locked ourselves out of the world's economic future. And this young couple, Harry and Meghan Markle, who are now living in the States and trying to make a new start, who are part of our hope of stability, of the future of the monarchy reproducing, can't be here. And I just wonder when somebody's going to call time on this. And somebody's going to point out that the emperor hasn't been wearing any clothes for quite some time, and that these people have no place in our democracy. And that in a digital world, we don't need them for news, we're not informed by them. And yet they're shaping political agendas. They're destabilising the country, they're attacking democracy, the rule of law, the monarchy itself, and the crown. And I'm just wondering when somebody is going to call time. I'm looking at universities abroad because I know that that's necessary now. And I'm not the only. You know, we're about to see a brain drain from the country. Anybody who wants a global future has to leave this country at the moment. And I just wonder what's going to be left if somebody doesn't call time on that shit show soon.